Now this video is a very advanced video, I would say. It might even be easier to do this with macros, but there is a way to do it with formulas, and I'll walk you through the steps. So basically we want to reverse some values vertically, basically vertically flip them, multiply them with some other values, and then add up all of those parts. So let's take a look here. So we have column with data 1 and some numbers, data 2 and some numbers. We want to go in here, and let's say we select number 3, and then that's the start value, and then we select number 8, that's the end value. So we see here that we have this column is just a counter. This is a counter in here. We want to start at the third value, which is these two guys, and end at the 8th value, which is these two here. But here's the trick. We want, it would be pretty simple just to take 4 times 10 plus 4 times 15 all the way down within this range of green background color. But the trick is, and this was a real question someone had for me, and it really made me think. We want to multiply the 5 by the 10, the 2 by the 15, the 4 by the 18, and all the way up. So, and then add them all together. So we have to flip these somehow vertically. It's easy to transpose, take this vertically and make it horizontal, but to flip these dynamically, and then of course we could change this at any time. We could say, okay, I want to start at 3 and go to 10. And our formula has to be able to adjust automatically. So this was challenging and fun. I think now the toughest part for me will be to try to explain this whole thing. But let's give it a shot here. So step 1. This is just my previous video, video 00111. I show you how to create data validation in a dynamic way, so that, see how we've got this table of information, and right now it ends at 20. Well, if we go down here and add a 3 and add 12, the counter increments. So we need this part to increment as well. So we see that it does that. So watch the other video as well. You go in here and you want this list to start at 3 plus 1, which in this case is 4, which is perfect, and also to end down there. So watch the previous video to learn how to do that. But in this video we want to now take these, flip them vertically, and multiply them, and then add them all up. So let's get started with create dynamic named ranges. So I always say, don't try to go into the name manager and write the formula directly in here. That's too challenging, too tough. Go into a cell, write the formula. You can see the different parts like this. Make sure it's working. Highlight the whole thing like this. Use the F9 key. You see the values, and then put it into the name manager. So what we have here, let's just go through the different parts. We have a starting point, which is simply the column header of data 1. Table 1 is just this whole collection of numbers. That's table 1, the header column, data 1, H4. What is that doing? That's how many rows down to jump from here. So in this case, I put a 3, so we want to start at the third value, 1, 2, 3, which is a 4. We want to do that for both this area, data 1, and data 2. So now the next one is we don't want to go to the right or to the left. COLS means columns. We want to stay where we are. And then in this part, this is the height. How many values do we want to take? It's simply taking the 10 minus the 3 plus 1. So I highlight this, highlight the height, press F9. That's giving us 8 values, which is exactly what we want. So I'll just undo that. And then, of course, at the end, we have a width of 1. So inside of here, we simply have the values. We haven't flipped them vertically yet, but at least we have all of them. We have all 8 values. So we go into here, formulas, name manager, range, data 1, and then I have the formula in here. If I click this, that's going to test to make sure that we have those dynamically. And then, of course, I go to range, data 2, very similar. I go like this, and we have the next one. So you could examine this, but it's basically just taking this one and moving over to the right. So we have the other list. Okay, so we've got that part done. So now, step 3, this is the tough part. Sum product to multiply values. Let's look at the final formula. The sum product is very, very useful. It's a very long formula in this case, but let's just take a look and try to look at the different parameters here. Array 1 is obviously very long. We'll look at this in isolated in a minute. But array 2 is pretty simple. It's just taking our name range that I just showed you, range data 2, which are the values here in green. That's all it's doing. But this is the tough one, array 1. So I've taken this, I copied this, and I put it in this cell below. So let's just look at this isolated. All right, so what is this doing? Let's click in here. Now, range data 1. This is a bit tricky. Let's click the name manager. Range data 1. Go like that. Look at that. I've got 8 cells highlighted. So I did a video before, maybe I'll add this later, showing you how to use the offset function, use the reference point, not referring to a single cell, but referring to a range of cells, which is a very strange concept, but it's very interesting as well. So we're referring this part right here, the reference part, we're not taking like one little cell like we did before. We're highlighting all 8 of those values. It could be 6, it could be 12, it could be 3, but in this case we have the 3 to the 10. That's 8 numbers altogether. So that's what that's doing. And then what's the next part? Rows. See, this is the part in here. All of this together, I guess this is a good way to explain it. If I highlight this, press the F9 key, look at these values and look at the numbers we have here in data 1. It's now flipping it. 5, 7, 5, 2, 4, 3, 4, 4. So this is the end result, exactly what we need to multiply by these guys from the top to the bottom. This is flipping this around. So let's go back in here and take a look. So we have multiple cells as a reference, rows. Oh boy, this is a long one as well. So we're going to look at this bit by bit. So first of all, this is just saying how many values do we have? Okay, range data 1. This is simply giving us the 8. Okay, so 8 minus, now what is all this doing? So once again we have our multiple, it's another offset. We have multiple start points. Okay, now rows 0, columns minus 1. Now, as you may have noticed, I had to pause the video to figure out what in the heck did I just do. Or I did this last night actually, but now I figured it out. Okay, so I've got an 8. Simply means we have 8 values. But 8 minus, and what is all of this doing? Well, see how I put in column B or hashtag B in our table. I've got a little counter, a second count. This is our first counter, just counts all of them. But the second one is giving us numbers 1 through 8 because we have 8 values. But I'm using that. See how here I'm saying data range 1, which we know is a group of numbers in green. Then I'm saying 0, don't go to the right, don't go to the left. Sorry, 0 means don't go up or down, but here's the key. Minus 1 column shifts it from here back to the left to there, 1 through 8. So if we look at this guy, if you take all of this, press F9, now I have sort of a dynamic counter. Little hard to explain, but a dynamic counter that will sort of help me say 8 minus, and then we can sort of flip them around. So now let's take this. Let's see if we can highlight all of this and then press the F9 key. And we get all of these numbers. And basically it allows us, this is sort of doing the magic of flipping all these guys around. So you're going to have to play around with this one. I mean, this would be like half an hour to explain. But and I'll put a reference to another video where I explain it very, very carefully. But anyways, let's now press the escape key. And we get back to this portion of, say, this is our number 1 formula, the end formula with the whole thing. This is taking out, as I said before, it's taking out array 1, this part. So we're looking at this. We have this little part that does all the magic. You have to sort of go in here, evaluate this little bit by little bit, like this part, as I just did. This gets you the 8, and you want to, in here, you get your counter, and then you see all these guys. 8 minus, this is flipping it. This part in here is basically flipping these values backwards. So in the end, you get all of these guys. Start at the bottom, and it goes all the way up to the top. So now let's go back to the end formula, the sum product, and we look at array 1, press F9. These are flipped. We look at array 2, F9. And now we have, this is what sum product does. It takes this guy, the 5 times the 10, the 7 times the 15, which is exactly what we want, it multiplies them, and then it simply adds all of these guys up. And in the end, we get 530. Now, let's, I think step 4 is our test. So let's make this a little bit easier on ourselves. Let's make this 7 and make this 9. Because we want to prove that this is working. So if we were to go in here, just really manually, we would say equals, we want to say 7 multiplied by 10. And then here we're just going to say equals 5 times, because the middle one is still the middle one, like that. And then we're going to say equals, I guess it would be 2 multiplied by 11. So those are the 3 independent parts, these 3 numbers right here. And if we add all these up, it should equal to what we have here, 207. So if I say the sum of these 3 numbers, this is doing it step by step, of course, but that's correct, 207. But here we had to do it manually, flip them, right? So we got the last one against the first one, the middle one, and then here we have the first one against the last one here. But this one formula, one long formula, does the whole thing. So now we could easily move this around, and this automatically adjusts. Now, I can already think of something else to make this even more complicated. What if someone wanted to have a little checkbox to say, allow you to flip these or not flip these? Yeah, that's also possible, but enough for now.